life doesn't always comply to the timelines and the goals that we set for ourselves. It doesn't always go according to how we saw things happening for us. Low key, friend. Maybe low key, you're the problem. For everything under the sun, there is a purpose and there is a time. Sometimes it's okay to quit. It's so important that we don't let the waiting season make us settle for something that was never meant to be ours. Life is a flow, right? It can't always be grind mode. We're working hard, we're going in. There are some things that you have to recharge. You have to close your eyes, you have to close your ears, and focus on what you want, not what society has told you to do, not what you see your other peers doing, because they are not you and you have your own race to run. And there's some couples where you're like, you guys need to break up because this is no longer working. There's a time to build up and there's a time to destroy. Everybody else is the problem. Maybe low-key sometimes I'm the problem. Give yourself that permission to change your goals as well. As you're changing, as you're evolving. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Dreams Money Purpose podcast. It is your host, Norma, and I'm back for another solo episode. If you're new, welcome. And if you're an oldie, welcome back, friend. I'm glad to have you here. In this community, we focus on pursuing our purpose and fulfilling our dreams. So as we've just gone through the first half of the year, I thought this would be the perfect time to tackle this topic, which has been on my heart a lot lately, which is on times and seasons. And this is built on the proverb which says, for everything under the sun, there is a purpose and there is a time. As we get into the middle of the year, we're now reflecting on our goals, we're reflecting on the things that we promised ourselves that we will be accomplishing at the beginning of the year. But I wanted to propose some different ideas in how we do that and how we achieve that. But just as a background to anyone who's new, these solo episodes are birthed from what I'm going through, what I'm learning through, what I feel God is teaching me, and anything else that I feel like I've gone through, learned through, and is worth sharing. And hopefully it will be of great use to you. And typically I will interweave some questions for us to think about, to reflect on, and to review as we continue again in pursuing purpose and ultimately achieving our dreams, whichever way we go about it. So some of the things that we will be discussing, and some of the things that were on my heart are like the different seasons that we go through. And sometimes this includes the waiting season where you're in that in-between stage. Sometimes there is the season of sowing, which is where, you're putting in the groundwork, you're really focused, you're locked in with your work or your business, whatever it is that you're doing. And there's many other seasons as well. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss is how sometimes we're in such a rush to exit the current season we're in to enter into a new season. And this could be for different reasons, whether that is the current season you're in doesn't look like what you expected it to look like, the goals that you have set for yourself, or what society says you should be doing in this season, what you see your peers doing as well. So you start to look and compare. For instance, you could have, at the age of 21, in your mind, you thought, okay, by the time I'm 25, I may be married. By the time I'm 28, I want to be, in a 6-figure job. Or for someone else, it could look like, by the time I'm 32, I want to be running or own a multi-million-dollar business, multi-million-pound business. And then you get to that stage of your life, or you get to that age and those things haven't happened. You haven't achieved those goals. Or maybe you thought by the time I'm 28, I'm going to be a parent, and that hasn't happened yet. So then we try to rush to enter into that season or to attain those goals that we had initially set for ourselves. But I wanted to propose the idea that I think sometimes it really does a disservice to us because we are rushing, one, into something we may not be prepared for. And two, we're allowing society, or we're letting other people, we're letting our peers pressure us into things that are not for us for that season. I think it's so important for us to be reminded that life doesn't always comply to the timelines and the goals that we set for ourselves. It doesn't always go according to how we saw things happening for us. But also that's okay, because sometimes it serves us for the better. I think I want to propose that we lift off that lid of pressure upon ourselves, and that we live in a space where you're able to enjoy truly the season that you're in without always anticipating for the next, because you think that's where the happiness is. When I have children, that's where the happiness is going to be. When I have my six-figure job, that's where the satisfaction and the joy is going to be. When I'm in my relationship or marriage, that's where my ultimate success and my joy is going to come from. But really just, taking the time and the space to appreciate the season that we're in for what it is, and still enjoy it and still flourish in that season, even if we know that there is more that I still want to do, there's more that I want to achieve, there's more that I want to experience. One of the dangers as well, I think, or the consequences of being in a rush to exit one season to enter the next, is that if you're not prepared for it truly, you can prematurely give birth to ideas, give birth to projects or businesses, or enter into things that you haven't prepared for. And in the process, because you're not prepared for it, you can lose it. So, for instance, and this is such an extreme example, but for instance, seeing a toddler, there's a toddler and they only just started to learn to walk, right? They're still waddling and they fall as they walk, but they're getting their steps in. They're starting to get their steps in. But could you imagine if that toddler decided that they now want to be in the Olympics and run against Noah Lyles, run against Usain Bolt? It's a little bit ridiculous, right? So I think sometimes that's what we do when we're rushing and trying to accelerate into a season that we haven't prepared ourselves for, whether that is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically, perhaps. An example I can think of is, let's say you're like, okay, I've been single and I'm ready to be in a relationship, or I've been in a relationship, I'm ready to be married. But the question is, are you emotionally, mentally ready to be in a relationship? Maybe there's an example that comes to your mind where either there's a friend or there's a story you've heard of, like someone that was like, yes, they're ready to date, and they start dating, only to be, let's say, 2 months in, and they're like, actually, this is too much, I'm out. So it's like, okay, where you were never truly ready. Because I think, for instance, with the example that I'm using right now, being in a relationship requires so much work, and so much work emotionally on yourself, but also so much investing in time in the other person, investing emotionally, mentally in the other person too, giving so much, being sacrificial, right? So it's like, before you've entered into that stage, or before you've exited your season of singleness into a relationship or into marriage, are you truly ready for what you're asking for? Are you ready for the requirements and whatever that will be required of you in this new chapter, or in this new role that you have now as a spouse? I think something else I've also observed as well is, like, as we rush to attain our goals and to do all of these different things, sometimes we let the pressure of peers, but also keeping up with the Joneses, or pressure us or rush us into eating unripened fruit, or eating fruits as it's still growing. Now, I grew up in Zimbabwe, so it was quite normal to grow up in a household or in areas where there are loads of fruit trees. Being a child or being young, of course, what you're going to do is, you see fruit on a tree, you're going to grab it and eat it. And sometimes you just know that it's not ready yet, but in your greed and in your silliness, you're like, it's worth it, and you eat it. Now, two things can happen. You can eat it and it's like, it's okay, but it's not really as sweet, it's not as juicy as you want it to be, or it can make you sick. And I think that's what sometimes happens in our adulthood, as we try to, quote unquote, eat unripened fruit. And there's this, I guess, a visual that comes to mind is, like, let's say you're growing, as we're already on the trajectory of using fruit and food as an example. If you've ever seen, so let's say you have a mango tree that you're growing, right? Or you are growing some sort of crops. If you decide, as soon as you grow it, and as soon as you start to see it start to bloom or start to grow, it's still tiny, but it hasn't fully grown to its full maturity. It's not fully ripened yet. And you eat it, and you do this, and you do it again and again and again. By the time that it's the season for you to harvest your fruits or to harvest your crop. You have nothing to harvest because you were so speedy, so quick to want to eat it whilst it was still growing, whilst it was still ripening, that now you look back at, now you're in the season where you should be harvesting and enjoying the fruits of your labor, but you have nothing to enjoy, you have nothing to show for it, you have nothing to harvest, simply because you've rushed yourself to eat it whilst it was still in its growing stage, while it was still in its maturity stage, whilst it was still in its stage of ripening as well, which is quite unfortunate because you do yourself a disservice, and it's almost as if you've stolen from yourself and there's nothing for you to enjoy. There's nothing for you to enjoy because you've enjoyed it out of season, or you've eaten out of it out of season. You almost, in a way, you've stolen from yourself out of season versus waiting for the appropriate time, waiting for the appropriate season for you to harvest and enjoy it in its best quality, in its best form, where it's like you have the quantity as well. And I think this specifically refers to, particularly in like finance or career as well. And I think, speaking personally, I've been that person who, unfortunately, when I was younger, I was guilty of doing that, doing things out of season. So in a season where I should have been locked in, where I should have been focused on my career or my job, growing, learning, doing all I needed to do in that particular space, I wasn't as focused. Or in my finances, in a season where I should have been saving, when I should have been maybe cutting back on spending, that's the time where I was spending a lot more, which now in reflection, I can look back and think, well, that was a little bit immature. Again, that wasn't the season. I was doing things out of sync, out of season, and almost backwards. And truth be told, maybe within a year, I was looking back, I thought, okay, no, that was silly. Clearly, it wasn't the appropriate season to be doing that, because you could have used that season in a better way, and I could have made better decisions that aligned with the season that I was in. So again, yeah, there is a time to plant, there is a time to work, there is a time to harvest, and a time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Truth be told, it can be difficult as well, especially again with social media. And I've mentioned this in the past, or just, being around other people and you see other people enjoying what you also desire. And not because you're jealous of them, but to you, it's just a reminder of, this is what I also want. It's a reminder to yourself of some things that you are looking forward to enjoying in your future, or something that you don't have yet, especially if you're in your waiting season. It's so important that we don't let the waiting season make us settle for something that is not ours for now, or something that was never meant to be ours, because society says you must be doing this. Society says, oh, you need to have children now. Society says you need to XYZ. And so sometimes I think the older you get, you realize that there are some things that you have to, Ray Charles, you have to close your eyes, you have to close your ears, and focus on what you want, not what society has told you to do, not what you see your other peers doing, because they are not you, and you have your own race to run as well. And also another thing is, like, people may also start to pressure you or convince you of things that you generally don't even want it, but because everybody else is doing it, it's almost assumed, and that same thing is applied to you, like, oh, maybe you should add that to your to-do list or your life goals list. Whether an example I can think of is like the white picket fence example, and the 2 children and a dog and a husband and a wife. So as I said in the beginning, I think it's important that maybe we take the time to reflect on the things that we are still chasing. Are they things that are still relevant to you, the current version of you, not the 21-year-old version of you, not the 25-year-old version of you, but the you that you are right now? So the question is, what do I want in this season? What do I need? What do I truly desire in the long term? And do those goals and those things that I wanted at the age of 25, do I still really want them? Are they still relevant, or were they things that I adopted from my family because my mom and dad said those are the things I should be chasing? Or are they things that I saw my friends seeking after. So I also adopted it as my own, but it was never truly my own desire. It was never truly my own want, rather a reflection of the things that other people put on me and I took on as my own. So as I mentioned briefly about how I think it's so important that we don't allow ourselves to rush ourselves. No, I think, as I mentioned before, I think the danger of rushing is that it accelerates you into something you may not be prepared for, or something that is truly not yours, or something you should not be seeking after because it doesn't reflect who you are or what you truly want. So, for instance, you might say, oh, I'm ready to quit my job and move on to another job. You may get the job, you may get the house, or you may get the relationship, you may get the promotion, you may get the child, whatever it is. You attain it and you're happy for a moment, but quickly come to the realization that I am not prepared for this. I don't have the capacity mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So a question to ask is, am I prepared for what it is that I'm asking for? And is this the right season for it? Am I the best version of myself to not only attain that thing, but to also keep it? Because the truth is sometimes it's not the right season, but that's okay. It's okay. And I think particularly in the West, we're such a rush, speed, quickly, everything needs to be right now, accelerating right now, right now, right now. But I think there is such a beauty in taking the necessary steps to ensure that you're not running into your own downfall or running into your own demise. Because I think there is such a thing as running into the wrong direction. And I think that's what happens sometimes when we don't take the time to reflect and say, what am I doing? What am I seeking? What am I chasing? In which direction am I going? And is this still the right direction for me? Is this still the right path for me? So the season of waiting can be long. The season of enduring, persevering can be tough. But truth be told, it's also worth it. I think it's absolutely worth it. As I mentioned, now, like, I think it's even scarier to rush and run and then get to that place and realize I don't like the place I've brought myself to, whether it's career wise or relationship wise. Simply because you wanted the thing, it's not worth it. Better to go slow and get to the right location than to rush and run and realize that you've ended up in the wrong location. And also, I know we don't like to hear this, but patience is actually a virtue. Like, patience is a virtue, and there is reward in waiting. And I know we don't want to hear that, but there really is reward in waiting. There's reward in persevering. There's a reward in patience. And I think particularly as we grow, as we change, as we learn, enduring that growth period means that when you do attain the things that you want, whether, for instance, it's the new job, is that you are much more prepared for it. You're much more equipped for it, whether that is skills wise, mentally, you're more mature for your relationship that you want, maybe as a parent. The way that you would parent as a 21-year-old parent is different to the way you would parent as a 31-year-old parent. You're more mature mentally, maybe financially, you're more secure. Emotionally, you're more stable, you know yourself a little bit better. So you're able to handle that responsibility in a better way, with so much more grace, with so much more wisdom, probably, in comparison to maybe rushing to do something that you're not equipped for, whether that's the skills that are needed, the emotional maturity and stability, and all of those other factors. And I think definitely, I think it's something that's overlooked, particularly when it comes to relationships. Because I think, for instance, like, I don't know if you guys have seen, so there's a particular show that I watch called Something Therapy. It's like an American show where there are, real couples going through real therapy with a therapist. And there's some couples where you're like, you guys need to break up because this is no longer working. This you're like, I'm not in the relationship and I'm stressed just simply by watching it. But also, there may be one person where anything that their partner does is a trigger to them. Anything that they do bothers them. And you're like, okay, you need individual therapy and you need to be single, because from the looks of it, maybe A, this particular relationship is not for you, or B, you just need to heal. You need to heal. And I say all of that to say, even with relationships, there are things where it's like, no, it's cool to take the time out, even if it's like taking 6 months out to just be single and focus on you and to heal, so that by the time you enter into that relationship that you do want, you're not letting your wounds bleed onto your partner, and you're not letting anything that your partner says be a trigger to you, and almost be salt in your own wound that is still open and hasn't fully healed yet. I think the issue is with comparing ourselves to other people and looking at what our age mates are doing and wanting to replicate that very thing, is that they're in a completely different life stage. You live different lives, and your circumstances are so completely different. And sometimes I think you do have to be, and there are times where we need to be honest with ourselves and say, though that person gets to enjoy these particular things or luxuries or whatever it is in this current period, doesn't mean that I have to copy and replicate it just because I want it. Maybe for you, it means that you just have to take a step back and just let them enjoy it. Let them enjoy, because they have the ability to do those particular things. But let them enjoy the seasons that they're in. But you also know that your time will come. Your time will come, and it doesn't mean that you have to replicate that very thing right now. It doesn't mean that you have to replicate and now start having kids because you see your other friends are having kids, or get married right, or pressure yourself or rush yourself to getting married because you see other people getting married. You don't have to jump or into entrepreneurship or jump into self-employment simply because you've seen your other colleagues do it and do it successfully, or you've seen like a friend of yours do it and do it successfully. Again, it may not be the season for you to do that. There may come a time in a season where it's appropriate, but right now is not the current season for you. Also coming to the realization and acceptance of that people have different lives, people have different privileges, people have different support systems, people have different resources that they can enjoy and tap into that allow them to accelerate into certain seasons or do certain things where you may not have the same privilege to do as well. And I guess that requires for us to really have a look at our own lives and see perhaps sometimes the boundaries that we are setting due to the circumstances of our lives, but also again not necessarily looking at it out of resentment for our own situation, but rather acceptance and adapting to the cards that we've been dealt with, and also just using the cards that we've been dealt with to the best of our abilities to make the most of the situation, I guess. And as we make the most of the situation, using it to our advantage. Another life season as well that I wanted to get into is there's a time to build up and there's a time to destroy. And this comes from the idea that I wanted to propose that sometimes it's okay to quit. Sometimes it's okay to hang up the boots, particularly when you see that something isn't working, whether that's a relationship, the job, the business, the situation that you may be going through. Just reviewing and recognizing like this is not working for me anymore, or this is no longer what I want. It's what I wanted in a previous season and it works for me then and I enjoyed it, but now it's run its course and it's no longer working. For instance, you have somebody's been running a business and things are just not working out, or there just isn't enough income coming in, revenue coming in. Sometimes it's okay to close it down. And I think there's the idea of quit whilst you're ahead, and I think that there's some truth and validity in that. I'm not someone who usually preaches just leave everything, quit and whatever. I do believe in persevering, but I also think sometimes it's important that you quit whilst you're still ahead and quit whilst you're still at somewhat of an advantage, because sometimes you can quit when it's too late and you've already lost too much, you've already invested too much into a particular situation. Let's say, for example, there's a relationship that isn't working. Sometimes instead of dragging it out for another 6 months, another year, another 5 years, recognizing that this just isn't working for one reason or another, whether you're not compatible, whether it's just a toxic relationship, or whether there's just no future. I think it's so unfortunate that we as people, we love to hold on to things simply because of how much we've invested into that thing. we're not willing to lose our investment in that thing, but we're willing to lose the time investing and hoping that investing more into that situation will make it work. But I think there are times where we need to give ourselves the grace, to give ourselves the space and permission to say, I quit. And it's not necessarily a loss, but rather, what do I gain back by letting this thing go? What do I gain back by quitting, whether that's quitting the job and searching for something else that suits you better, and perhaps not necessarily looking at it as something that you lose, like I said, but rather, what do I gain by letting this go? But as I said, I think not all things require that we quit cold turkey and leave it alone. But there are certain circumstances that maybe it's just a case of re-strategizing, looking at it from a different lens, applying new tactics to make it work, whether, again, that's in your job, that's in your business, or even in a relationship. Do I need to show up as somebody different to have a different result? Because I also think that's another thing that we, as people, we like to look at it as sometimes everybody else is the problem. But sometimes maybe low key friend, maybe low key you're the problem. Maybe low key sometimes I'm the problem. So in that situation, it's like, okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be in this season to get a better result? And what is it that I need to implement in order to get the best out of this situation as well? So not necessarily quit, but maybe re-strategizing, maybe rethinking, injecting some new energy into it, injecting some new ideas into it, spicing up the relationship. And I mean that in a PG way. Maybe you've just not been happy in that relationship. Okay, what is it I can do different that could bring more joy, more peace into the relationship? The business is not really making as much money as I would like for it to make. Okay, what are some new ideas, new marketing strategies I can implement that would elevate it to the next level? My brand isn't really growing as much as I want it to. What are some new things that I can adapt to see the shift that I want and the results that I do want for this season? So next up is the season of reviewing, or time of reviewing. As I mentioned at the beginning, I think it's so important that we stop, take a minute, and just reflect. And again, as it's mid-year, this is the perfect time. Rethinking, reviewing if what we're currently doing is working for us, if it's what we should be doing at this time, or maybe do I need to switch lanes? Do I need to switch it up a little bit? And am I on track for what I've said I wanted, especially at the beginning of the year, or maybe even like 2 years ago? Am I still on track to achieve those things? Because as we grow, we change, we evolve. Who we are at 21 is not who we are at 31. So, I think give yourself that permission to change your goals as well. As you're changing, as you're evolving, as you're elevating, let your goals change, let them elevate, let them grow and be different. Because who's to say that because this is something that you wanted at 21, it still has to be the thing that you wanted at 31? Because I think you realize that as you grow, like, I'm so different. What I require as a human being is so completely different. What brings me joy is so different to what brought me joy when I was 21 years old. The things I seek and the things that I desire also have changed and elevated in some ways. Therefore, what I do also has to change and elevate along with my growth and my elevation as a person. But again, in that, giving yourself the freedom to switch it up and not allowing people to hold you to the old version of you or the things that you said that you would do, because you're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to want different, because what was appropriate for you in the last season may not be the best thing for you in this season and in this period. So then we have the season to enjoy. There's definitely seasons of enjoyment. I believe in balance, and I believe that things should be, life is a flow, right? It can't always be grind mode. We're working hard, we're going in, like waking up at 5 a.m. every day and we're going to grind, that grind 24/7. I'm not about that life. I am not about that life. And I think, again, that's such an easy way to run ourselves into the ground, particularly because, particularly because we're human beings and it can't always be the grind mode, grind mode, grind mode. You are permitted to take the time out to just enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoy the blessings that you have, enjoy the relationships that you have, enjoy your career, enjoy the financial benefits that come with whether that's your job or your business or any success that you do have. However, I also recognize that there's other people who are, in that season where they're locked in. And it's like, you're seeing other people, they're outside, they're enjoying the sun, they're frolicking, whilst you have to be the one that's indoors grinding, studying, or working on your business, job, whatever it is. But I also want you to be encouraged that seasons are not constant. It will shift, it will change, whether that's within 6 months, whether that's within the year, whether that's in 2 months. It will shift. My mom always says, she always says, like, life is like a Ferris wheel. Like, 1 minute you're up, next minute you could be down, but best believe you will be up again, and you will have the beautiful view of the city. And I think it's, as much as, like, sometimes I used to be like, oh, mom, but it's so true. It's so true. Like, nothing is constant. Like, life is forever changing. Okay, I don't know how we got to me being a philosopher for a second, but my point was that even if you are in that season of like grind mode, there will be a time to enjoy the fruits of your labor for sure. So, as I always do, I have a question for you. What should you be doing in this season? Maybe in your finances, is this the season to be saving and drawing back on spending? Or is it the season to be investing? Is it the season where you can enjoy the fruits of your labor and spend a little bit more? In your relationships, whether that is, a romantic relationship, is this the season where you should be elevating it to the next level? Or is this the season for breaking up because you fill in the blank? In your career, is this the season for a shift, maybe to a new role, to a new job, to a new company? Or is it the season to stay focused where you are right now? In your business, is it the season to take it up a notch? Or is it the season to maybe re-strategize, add in some new, fresh ideas into how you do things and adapting? But that's my question for you. So the question is, what is the season and what should I be doing? So as we were speaking about relationships, one of the things that I've been so blessed with, particularly within the last year, is the people that have been added to my life. I'm so grateful. And I bring that up because I think they have cemented the idea that, the people that you're around are so important into your well-being, into your joy, but also into supporting you fulfill your purpose and achieve your dreams, or in helping you pursue your purpose and achieve your dreams. Perhaps one of the things that we don't speak about enough is the power that people hold, the power that people in our lives hold, and how they contribute to our lives, and how they shape us, and how they help to mold us and support us on our life journey. And I think because I've seen how the support of like friends and like loved ones, how they're pouring into me has been so instrumental in even just reshaping or rewiring my brain in the way that I look at myself. And that's like such a superpower that people hold over you. And I guess I bring this up to say, who are the people that are around you in this season, and are they helping you or supporting you, helping to mold you to the best you that you can be? People can come into your life and be like, almost the cheerleaders that are on your squad, and they're watching you by the sidelines, or they can be like the managers that are by the sidelines who correct you when needed, who help guide you a little bit, who give advice from the sidelines. to help you achieve your goal, or also just to like, or just like, the cheerleaders that are just by the sidelines, like cheering you on with everything that you're doing, or also can be the voice that just prompts you to push further, letting you know like you're doing good, you're doing okay, you're on the right lane. Or whether those people come as friends, whether those people come as mentors, push you along, because life can be tough. Can we be honest? Like life can really be difficult, but just having those people that are around you who support you, to egg you on to do better, to do more, is so important. And I think for me, I can see how there are specific people that I feel like God has placed in my life that have literally come into my life and made me see myself different, because they see me differently. And it's so important to have those people who see you for who you are. They see the real authentic you, they see what you're capable of, and they are able to pull that out of you, or they're able to point it out and say, hey, I think you would be amazing at this, or I think you have this gift, you have this talent, you have this charisma that would work really well in a particular industry, or in a particular job, in a particular thing. And people who see not the you that you present to the world, but they see the you that God created. They see the authentic you. And it's such a blessing and so important to have those kind of people who are truly supportive of who you are and where you're going and your journey. And it's unfortunate that we underestimate the power of people over our lives, and the power that they hold to just push us forward into purpose, into destiny, and into fulfilling purpose. And if you don't have those people, I truly encourage you. I think it's so key to life and to everything that we do, to have that village or that hype squad, or your personal cheerleader squad of people who just love on you, who support you, who build you up, who encourage you, who pick you up when you're down, but also run alongside you when you're like, in this season, I feel weak, I don't have the capacity, but who just push you along as well to ensure that you achieve what you said you wanted to achieve, and are supportive of all the things that life may throw at you as well. What I wanted to propose is like, maybe it's, as we typically review goals mid-year, what about reviewing relationships? Is that something we're allowed to do? Or, you know, has society told us that you should just go along with it? And when I say reviewing relationships, it's like, how do the people that I'm around make me feel? How do the people around me impact my life, impacts my well-being, my joy, my growth, my happiness? Are they adding onto me, or are they taking away? And that applies to all relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, sometimes even family relationships. And obviously that's more for tricky subjects, because, and I think particularly when it comes to friendships, those are sometimes the ones that those are the ones that we do choose, right? So then I guess, so the question is like, the people I'm around, are they supportive? And I think sometimes you have to sometimes think about the impact that those relationships are having on you, especially the ones where it's not necessarily adding, but let's say you spend time with that person and you leave feeling drained, you leave them feeling low, they make you feel low about yourself, they make you question yourself, they take away from your confidence, they take away from who you are, and you feel like you have to be a particular version of yourselves. The relationships that make you feel, or the people that make you feel like you cannot present as your true self, but you have to present a particular idea of who you are, or you have to present a particular part of who you are. You can't show up in your full self entirely. I think those are the relationships where they may need to be reviewed a little bit, or maybe it's just a case of having honest conversations and saying, I don't feel safe in those relationships and in those friendships. Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? Do you feel welcome to be your authentic self and to be 100% yourself? Because I'll be honest, it's exhausting having to be around people that you have to pretend. And again, as you get older, I'm just like, I don't want to do that. I don't have the capacity to have to present a particular version of myself. I mean, I think with work is one thing because obviously you have to be the professional version of you at all times. But I just think in general, life is too short for me to be having to pretend and put up a facade and put on an act or not be 100% myself all the time. Like it's not worth it. Some of the red flags for me in any type of relationship are the people who are never happy for you or never are keen to celebrate you, are never really supportive, and they make you dim yourself down. I think those are the kind of people you don't need to be around, especially because it starts to impact on your confidence in who you are and in how you show up as a person. And then unknowingly, that can trickle into other relationships or other areas of your life because you don't either want to be judged or you don't want to be rejected if you come across or if you present yourself in your full, authentic self, right? You know, there's a proverb that says, you don't light a lamp and hide it under a basket. And sometimes I think people who don't support us or are low key are your enemies in a weird way are the ones who are the basket over your light. So if you're the light, they are the basket trying to hide and dim your light. Maybe that's not the kind of person you need to be around. People who are not happy for you, people who that when you have to pretend or where you have to dim your light for other people to shine or where other people are not comfortable with you shining at your brightest, perhaps it's a sign that that's not a sign of love. Because to me, love is support. Support is a love language on its own. I truly believe that having a great support system and having your personal cheerleaders can just alter and shift the course of your life because they're pouring into you so much that you can only but flourish. You can only but shine brighter because their goal and they just like, if I think about a plant, they're pouring, maybe they're like the water pouring into you, pouring into you, pouring into you. The more they're pouring into you, the bigger you grow and flourish. Maybe in this season it's time to review some of those relationships. And again, like I said, I'm not a advocate for cut everybody off, and no, that's not what I'm advocating for. But there are some relationships, maybe it's like, okay, maybe this relationship is just recognizing that maybe this relationship is not the best for my well-being, for my growth, for my joy, and for happiness. And whilst we're at it, we also do have to recognize that or review how we're showing up in other people's lives, how we're impacting them, how we're impacting their well-being. Are we being supportive? Are we being loving? Are we being, the one that's like waving our flags to support our people and to pour into whatever it is they're doing, just to show love and to show support. Yeah, and just thinking about, am I leaving the people that I say I love with? Do I leave them feeling loved and supported or feeling low about themselves? Because then in that case, now you're the issue, and that's something that you need to think about as well. And how am I impacting those I am around is the question for this segment. So I say all of that to say, go to where you're loved, go to where you're supported, go and surround yourself with people who will truly cultivate you in all the ways and pour love into you, pour support into you, and vice versa as well. That as they show up for you and love on you, you also show up for them and love on them as well. So that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this episode has blessed you and has raised some questions for you to think about, to review, to maybe go back and start rejigging some things in your life for the best. And yes, I will see you in the next episode of the Dreams Money Purpose podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. If anything I've said triggered or hit you or made you think, let me know in the comments, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.